the largest nuclear disaster in history took place behind the Soviet Iron Curtain. Join us for this special three-part series as we pull back the curtain with a panel of experts, including naturalists, scientists, and historians, to learn about the effects Chernobyl had on nature, nuclear science, U.S.-Soviet relations, and the people who worked there and called Chernobyl home. Rare photos and video captured by South Carolina ETV in partnership with the University of South Carolina will transport you across the world to an area that was devastated by an accident of catastrophic proportions. But over time, the people and the nature have returned.
This has become, and I hope we take advantage of it, an unbelievable opportunity to see what nature does under these conditions. And the closer we look, the more we're going to see. It's just that at this point, 25 years later, the amount of work that's been done, as you suggested, is minimal.
People go there expecting to see this lunar landscape, this Armageddon. And of course that's not the case, because there wasn't a bomb that went off. It was this nuclear fire, and so the entire landscape is slightly contaminated. It's not heavily contaminated. It's you wouldn't want to live there, you wouldn't want to eat anything from there, but it's not, the contamination for the most part isn't high enough that anything would die immediately. And so there are many plants and animals in this area, and so the first impression that somebody, especially somebody who's not a naturalist, they might get is, wow, this is much better than I was expecting. It seems okay. I see a bird there, I see some plants there. Maybe it's not so bad.
Whatever happened to be there when we were there, like any other nature scene show we ever do, we picked up, we looked at. And we talked about connections in the natural world and the mix of things. We talked a little bit about the history of the area. Every time we went in the woods, there were foxholes there where the Russians were fighting the Germans in World War II, right there. The Pripyat marshes were one of those big places that the Germans just swept right through. And of course, the horrible things that happened in Kiev. We visited Babi Yar before we had gone out there. There was so much excitement in my mind because it was a mix of history, natural history, and the way human hands have affected this place.
I think this was a very significant event, probably in some ways more so in terms of the political ramifications that it had. I mean,
inside the Soviet Union?
Rudy and Tim looked, well, I'm thinking more between the Soviet Union and the U.S. or the West. I mean, Rudy and Tim look for natural signs. I look for political signs. And I think back on it, and from that day when we would do our broadcast from the roof of the hotel in Tokyo, and it was raining. And we're thinking, this has drifted from where and means what? And it was Reagan who, at that point, said, if this is how they treat a disaster in their own country, how will they deal with a missile? How will they deal with the demilitarization aspects? That's the political legacy of
I think one thing from the 3 Mile Island connection, and I don't remember who the chairman of the committee that studied that was. I don't remember his name, but I remember he said that the technology is safe, the people aren't. And I always thought that when you sum up what happened at Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island and other places, maybe that's the simplest way to say it.
And it was a series of cascading events that eventually got out of control that they never really planned for.